Michael, welcome to the Dogcast, man. Thanks for hopping on the pod with me.
Thanks so much for having me, Logan. What a pleasure.
Yeah, man. It's cool to finally get to this spot. I know we were chatting earlier, and I was like, it's fun to take it, finally get it from the DMs and initial conversations that we had to starting to really make some movement towards plans and upcoming trips and getting to work together more. But excited about kind of what we're going to talk about today and really some of the stuff that you have to share.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to be coming to Arizona here pretty soon. So, really looking forward to what we have in store for those couple of days.
Yeah. For those that may not be familiar with you, and I know I feel like you've blown up a lot on Instagram over the last few months. We're starting to see your content everywhere. But for those who aren't familiar with you, Michael, give us a little introduction, a little high level introduction of yourself and just kind of your background, what you do, and kind of what you focus on when it comes to coaching.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, for those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Michael. On social media, I go by the Pickleball Chiropractor. So, my mission in life is to combine my two biggest passions, which is chiropractic and helping people stay healthy longer, and pickleball. I have played pickleball at the semi-professional level here in Southern California, and I just recently graduated from Doctorate of Chiropractic here as well. So currently delving into the world of professional pickleball for my own pursuits, and then also coaching pickleball at a very high level. And yeah, that's been going for the last 3 months now. I started posting social media content mainly on Instagram, as you mentioned, about 4 months ago now. Quickly grown to over 26,000 followers there and posting daily content. And a lot of the inspiration from my videos actually comes from the people that I coach, and it's mistakes and inconsistencies that I see on a daily basis on the court that kind of motivates me and gives me that inspiration to turn it into a quick tip. I think prior to myself posting on social media, I saw a lot of content out there that was a lot of gameplay strategy or a lot of good information, but it took too long to kind of get to that hook and that punch that delivered some value. So my goal in my content and my coaching as well is to get people better quickly. And I think a lot of that is using my biomechanics knowledge from doctorate school, as well as my knowledge from playing semi-professional pickleball and merging
Yeah.
the to get results quickly.
Yeah, I love it. I know I told you earlier, but I think the thing that stands out the most, and kind of piggybacking on what you said there, the thing that stands out the most to me is I think there's so much content out there. There's so many really great influencers that are putting, really good teaching, strategic videos. Tanner Tomasi's put out a lot of good stuff. The pickleball school. I've put Kyle Kazuda and Tyler and Zach have been putting out a lot of good stuff. There's so many really good content creators, but you're the first one that I've found that really focuses on the biomechanics. And I think being able to understand maybe what shots to hit is great, but somebody like myself who might be a little bit more athletically challenged than some of the guys that I'm watching here. It's really helpful to understand, like, teach me how to hit that shot. I know where to hit the shot, but how do I hit that shot, right? And so just watching your videos, the simplicity of how to think about shots, that decision making has been really helpful for my own game. I've been applying your stuff. I know you sent me, and we've worked on some forehand masterclass stuff together. So excited to again work more with you, but I really think that you have a unique approach to the game, and your background in biomechanics and understanding how the body works is going to be helpful for a lot of people in connecting the dots between, knowing what I need to do on the pickleball court and knowing what I should do, and then actually being able to execute on that.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, there's guys that you mentioned, social media content creators, they're absolute legends. And I think what they're doing is super valuable to players who already have somewhat of a foundation on how to hit certain shots. And I think the problem a lot of players that I coach, they run into is they more or less know where the ball should be going and what type of shots they should be hitting, but it's not something that they've unlocked in their arsenal on a consistent basis yet. And I think that's truly my focus as a coach, is making sure that a lot of people, they have the right ideas. I just want to give them the confidence and the mechanics and the technique to actually consistently be able to hit certain shots.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Another thing that stands out about your videos too, I think, always seeing use of different props and tools. Tell me a little bit more about, I know I see a lot of work with the tees. I see the Topspin Pro. Somebody like myself, I've eyed the Topspin Pro, trying to figure out, is that something that's worth investing in? Help me understand how you think about, tools and whether or not they're worth it for just kind of the average player looking to get better.
Absolutely. It's a great question. To give you a little bit of background, I played college soccer. I was on a full ride scholarship, and training for college soccer was tons of props, different props to practice specific situations. So goalies would have props, defenders would have props. We'd be using all sorts of different tools to hone in specific skills. Because if you don't train specific for a skill, that skill's not really going to get a whole lot better. So my initial inspiration to using some of the T work was really seeing there was a video that went pretty viral with Colin Johns um, working on defending counters and then also hitting counters off of the tee. And I was like, that looked super interesting to me because I feel like pickleball is still new enough at a high level to where people aren't doing that. They're not
Yeah.
specifying, honing in on skills and finding things that help you work on those skills. And one of my biggest pieces of advice is when you go to drill, have a specific goal in mind. And those props, like for lack of a better word, really help you isolate a skill. Like if I bring a tee, I know I'm working on backhand flicks for that whole day. And I find that my backhand flicks get better with that consistency. So that's where I really find props to come in helpful is for those consistent reps of a singular skill. And that's what's led to a lot of progress for myself and the people that I coach.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good point that you bring up because I think we're seeing a lot of athletes who a pickleball athlete like doesn't exist. Every pickleball athlete played some other sport before, but we're getting to the point. I have a 6-year old and a 5-year old and soon to be 2-year old. They there's a chance that they could specialize in pickleball, but every other major sport, baseball, soccer, football, you've got kids that are growing up and specializing in these sports. And there's a lot of attention to you scroll on Instagram for a few minutes and you'll find some kind of baseball hitting drill where they've got, water tanks on their back and they're using a wobbly stick, right? And there's so much there that people have tapped in. I think as we see more and more athletes come to pickleball, more attention, more dollars come to pickleball, we'll start to see more of that finite focus on really what you do is the biomechanics. There's so much about the biomechanics of kicking a soccer ball and hitting a baseball and catching a football, things like that. But there's not a lot out there today, and it's really cool to see how you're highlighting those specific, just more finite components of pickleball. I think our group, a lot of the guys I play with, anywhere from 3-5 really to 4-5, is the main skill level, and you can see a million different stroke styles. You've got guys that, only hit forehand from this side to this side. You've got guys that just hit really looping shots and everything in between. And I know as you go further to the pro level, things start to look a lot more similar from player to player. And I think you start to realize that certain stroke mechanics, you may get away with them at that lower level, but you're not going to get away with them as you get higher and higher up the scale. And so I think drawing attention to that is huge, especially for players who may not even realize that this is something they're doing in their backhand shot or their forehand take back, right? They're little things that work today, and so it'll be cool to as pickleball continues to develop and as people like yourself, continue to draw focus to the biomechanics there. But yeah, love that you mentioned you came from a background in soccer. I think majority of the people in this space that we see, especially in the coaching space, have kind of a background in tennis or other racket sports. We've got a lot of racquetball players in our group and ex-tennis players. I know there are some pros that do come from the soccer side. Help me understand, what skills do you feel like have translated the easiest or the most from playing a sport like soccer at a high level coming over to pickleball?
Great question again. I think the number one skill that transfers from soccer to pickleball would be footwork. And I feel like footwork is such an undervalued skill in pickleball because we're holding a paddle in our hand. And I
Yeah,
feel like in pickleball, the focus is on the upper extremity and what we're doing with the wrist and the elbow and the shoulder and shoulder degree closure and all of this. And we often forget about the foundation to all of that is actually being set in our footwork. And I feel like I see a lot of content out there and coaches saying some of the right things like, oh, make sure you're getting low, make sure you're getting behind the ball. I'm actually huge on footwork angle, so how we're positioning our left foot relative to our right foot for certain shots. And weight transfer is another huge thing for me. And weight transfer is never going to be perfect unless footwork is perfect and footwork angle is perfect. So I really do preach coaching from the ground up in the sense that I typically don't allow my students to hit the ball until their footwork is completely dialed. So a lot of my sessions start with zero paddles
yeah,
inside, and we're just dialing in what the footwork should be and getting that on a subconscious level just dialed in. So when we do go to add the paddle, we know everything from the lower extremities working perfectly. Now we can start to dial in those more upper extremity mechanics with wrist, elbow, and shoulder.
yeah. I mean, see that's something that like I think footwork is kind of a buzzword in pickleball. A lot of people say it, but there's not a lot of tangible content and conversation around like what specifically do we mean by footwork and weight transfer and even bringing in the angle component of it, because I think it's the last thing that most people think about on the pickleball court. And hey, why can't I hit my backhand dink consistently? Oh, my feet are stuck in the wrong positioning, or I move late, or I take the wrong directional step, right? Those things that most people, they don't see. They just see, oh, I'm every time I hit the ball, it's going straight up. It's because I haven't created the space for myself. So that's a great point, and I feel like something that definitely, to your point, goes overlooked by most intermediate players. You know, too much focus is put on the upper body. So great call out there, and excited again to see some of that translation into just some of the work that you're going to do, the clinic work. But wanted to jump into that specifically. I know you are planning a trip to Arizona soon. And you're going to be working on some clinics. Tell me a little bit about kind of when you're planning on coming out, and then kind of what you're planning on doing while you're out here.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to be coming out to Arizona. We're planning on October 8th arrival and staying for about 3 or 4 days there, depending on how many people we can get to book, but at least 3 or 4 days at a minimum right now. I'll be visiting a couple Pickler locations, um, and specifically more in the East Valley of the Phoenix Metro, near you guys.
Yeah.
Yard, and then also more in Scottsdale as well for a couple of days with the Pickler out there. I've made a good connection there. So super excited to get to those two locations and meet all of you guys in person because going off our last conversation as well, just with things like footwork and wrist mechanics, it's hard for me as a content creator to really post about those things in a general sense because it's
Yeah.
extremely different person to person what advice I would give someone. So, for example, I work with a lot of people who have had ACL reconstructions or severe wrist mobility, and that advice isn't going to be the same from one person to the next. So, I really like to keep the groups within 3 to 4 people at a maximum, so I can really evaluate each person's mechanics and the way their body moves to give them the best advice possible. Because if the numbers get too big, you don't get a lot of that one-on-one attention. So a little bit of
Yeah.
my philosophy there, but I'm super excited to be coming out here pretty soon.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's one thing, to see and to be around a coach and to get some high level kind of direction, but to be able to have that hands on or to break down, right? Maybe what I'm doing wrong is going to be slightly different than what somebody else is doing wrong. So to be able to have that hands on, I think is going to be really valuable for folks taking your course. I'm excited to jump in and to be a part of the clinics. I know there's a lot of guys in our club that are really interested and excited. I know when we chatted, one of the things that stood out was just the work that you do on the backhand specifically, and your backhand masterclass. So I know that's what we're going to be focusing on with the junkyard group and the clinics you do with us. But help me, for those who maybe just have heard it, or heard about it and are excited and interested to know a little bit more about what that clinic will entail. Uh, Go ahead and break down kind of what you cover in the backhand masterclass and what people can expect.
Absolutely. So, what you can expect with the backhand masterclass is essentially a focus on backhand shots from the kitchen line. Some of the things you can expect to learn about would be the big three, I call them. So, you have the backhand flick, the backhand roll, and the backhand poke. Each of those should be performed very differently to get the maximum effect from each of those. So, I think I actually have a paddle here. I can just give a quick little demo here. So just and a lot of this, what I preach, again, it's all in the lead up to shots. So whether it's footwork or mechanics of angles and things like that. So for example, a little sneak peek here, just differences between a roll, flick, and poke. With a backhand roll, I actually kind of recommend people to drop this corner down a little bit and then lead up with this corner, because that's going to help generate some topspin from a lower ball that we would want to roll, pick it up over the net, and then have it drop with topspin. Versus a flick is going to be more of a higher ball that we attack. So there's really no reason to drop your paddle head on that one. More of a flat paddle head here, and just doing that more traditional frisbee motion through the ball is more advisable for a flick. And then a poke is more of a surprise shot. If you feel like someone's paddle is down against you and you're kind of going for upper chest, more of a body bag type shot, you actually completely drop the paddle tip, and it's just a super quick poke with a little bit of deceleration. So going through the different mechanics to each of those, I see so many people just combine elements of all three of those in a singular shot. And I coach players that play professional right now, and they'll be the first to tell you that that's never going to work. You really have to hone in the technique of each shot and be very specific with when you're hitting each. And a lot of those three shots, like if I'm playing against you, Logan, and I know you have a good backhand roll, I'm probably going to stay off of giving you a backhand volley. So a
Yeah.
lot of these shots, it's great to learn them and it's great to learn the technique. But if you don't know how to set them up with certain shots, they're probably not going to come your way too frequently. So
Yeah.
players know me for a strong backhand, so they don't play to my backhand. So unless I'm actively doing things to force them to play into my backhand, I'm not going to get the shots that I practice. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of what we dive into after we get some technique foundationally layered there. Is then we go into, okay, we're at the kitchen, we're thinking, how do we actually set up these shots that we just learned? And
Yeah.
that's a little bit about the backhand masterclass there.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think amongst our group, we've got a pretty feisty group, uh, a lot of chatter. But one of the things that people love doing is speeding up or having offense at the kitchen line, catching people off guard, bagging people, and things like that, right? And everybody knows that pressure feeling when you're facing somebody that is a threat on the backhand or has a lot of offense on the backhand. Because you could turn on, a PPA event from this last weekend and see pros that don't really do much on their backhand, and it's obvious, right? So it's something that people sometimes will try to run around or get around, to their forehand. I do that quite often, or everything on their backhand is defensive. It's blocks, it's resets, right? And there's space for that. But opening up and becoming more dynamic to be able to attack, and to know kind of when to use what attacks. I think, in my mind, is probably one of the things that really unlocks really jumping to that next level, and being more threatening at it, applying more pressure just with your presence. If you're a threat to hit those shots, your presence is pressure, and your pressure is going to create mistakes from your opponent or probably give you and your partner more opportunity. So, it'll be funny because I'm sure the guys in our group that jump into the course, jump into the clinic, and get some work with you. We're probably going to start to see that a little bit more throughout our league and throughout our rec games together. So we'll know who jumped in Michael's clinic, because you'll start seeing some smoke off the back side there.
Absolutely. And it's a great point you mentioned just with realizing some deficiencies in players that you play, and the most common deficiency is a lack of attack from the backhand, I'd say, especially between the 3-0 to 4-0, even some 4-5 range players. You can basically just play to people's backhands and win a lot of games.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I do is just get overly confident on that backhand side, and you'll find that people actually start playing to your forehand, which is a great problem to have because most people
Yeah.
already have pretty good forehands. So yeah, that's always a big compliment to me that I look for when people are playing against me. Are they targeting my backhand? Maybe that means they feel like they have a bit of a stronger backhand, or they like forget it. He's rolled the ball, bagged this guy like 4 times. Let's go to his forehand. So
Yeah.
little signs that you're doing something right when things like that start happening.
Yeah. Do you like playing, do you prefer left side or right side?
So obviously in this video you can't see, but I am 6'6", so I'm a bigger guy. So I do play mostly left side just because that's where my reach is most available and most useful. I find
Yeah.
um kind of goes perfectly with my favorite shot, which is like a strong Ernie. So I hop off my right foot onto my left, forehand Ernie there. Very hard to do anything with that when I time it right, just because my wingspan's so long. So
Yeah.
that's some of the reasons why I like to play left. But yeah, going back to the backhand masterclass, I do find that most people don't want to play to my backhand because it's arguably stronger than my forehand.
The door's closed over there.
Yeah.
The
So I
door's
get
closed.
quite a bit of action more so in the middle of the court, which is nice. So
Yeah. I tend to play with players that are better than me, and I'm starting to kind of settle in to that right side role. But I think one of the common misconceptions that you see guys like Gabe Tardio starting to bust is that you're not, you can't be aggressive or offensive from the right side. One of the things that I've noticed recently, like watching specifically Gabe, but there's other guys that do it. Hayden will do it on the right side when he plays on the right side too, but they'll play really tight to the tee and they'll lean in and create a lot of backhand attack pressure that, especially when the ball is going cross court and dinking rallies, they really shrink the kitchen by being a threat to snag maybe a high or a slightly dead dink that's going cross court and just speed it up down the middle. Do you feel like tying in the stuff that you're teaching is something that really can enhance offense from right side players as well?
absolutely. And arguably more so from the right side in different ways. So part of what I'll teach and plan to go over is differences in how you would use the backhand roll, flick, and poke from the left side versus the right side. And that kind of gets into some more pattern play of how we're setting up shots and then the specific spots that we're actually trying to hit on people with those shots. I think a lot of people, when they learn those shots, they think it's awesome and it's cool. I can finally hit a backhand flick consistently, and then they just speed it up right at the person's chest, which is where most people are set, and they
Yeah.
punched, and it's not a great feeling when you finally feel like you've hit a shot well. So there's specific shots that I like to hit more so when I'm on the right hand side versus the left hand side. And when I say spots, I mean spots on my opponent. So a really big spot for me when I'm on the right, reaching in on my backhand for a flick or a poke is going to be the left side's outside shoulder, because essentially when you're coming into, you described a situation where a right side kind of pinches in to take a volley off of the backhand there.
Yeah.
Players you'll see on the other side kind of typically converge in. So hitting those outside shoulders, you'll tend to get those weird chicken wing type spots on people. And that's the biggest time I would see a right side coming in and being big on the backhand out of the air with a poke flick or a roll.
Let's go. Yeah. I think the I won't steal too much thunder from the course. And I definitely think you know, we'll have to keep a little bit under wraps for those who get to jump in and take one of your slots. But I know it's going to be somewhat limited as far as just your availability and you know how many slots. So we want to make sure that you know, if people are interested, we're jumping in there. But super excited to have you out. Super excited to jump in and take your clinic and just kind of up level my game and see how it kind of changes the dynamics of our group. But I did want to ask it just kind of a few things. It's not often that we get a chance to kind of chat through with somebody who's coaching and coaching even at the pro level as well. I'm curious from you when you start working with players, what are some things that you feel like are the most low-hanging fruit? I know you had mentioned footwork as one of them, which I think is gold, but are there a couple other things that you feel like, hey, these tend to be low-hanging fruit and things that I like to draw focus to from the jump?
Generally speaking, I'd say too large of movements with the arm. I think as much as I did play college soccer, I grew up playing a bit of tennis as well, never at a super high level, but that was my foundation when I converted to pickleball was let's just play tennis on this small court and it's gonna be super easy. And that didn't work out too well for me. So I learned the hard way there. But yeah, I think just in general on 90% of shots on the pickleball court, I always say less is more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and again, I think people tend to swing more on shots because they have no idea what they're doing with their technique. And one of the things I always say is once you have technique on any shot, you can account for that technique to add power because it's mechanically sound. You don't
Mm,
be swinging as hard as you can on any shot in pickleball. You watch Ben Johns play, it looks completely effortless. He's never
yeah.
fully exerting himself because he trusts his mechanics so much. And
Yeah.
you tend to see him even on the single side of things, just letting guys run themselves into the ground, swinging hard, doing big motions. It's not sustainable over a long period of time. You might look great for 3 or 4 points, then you're going to wear down and things are going to break down because it's highly inconsistent. So, shortening swings, dialing in mechanics is the way to go for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always weird watching pros that look like they're not even sweating or can bounce around or playing these like, multiple layers of 3, 4 game matches and they're popping up and I've got, doubles over here with so and so and it's like if I play 8 games, 9 games, I'm toasted for, 24 to 48 hours. So probably a lot of inefficiencies in my movement. So I think that's a great call out. And then if you going knowing what you know now and knowing that obviously you're a student in general, right? To be able to study the way that you have and to earn your doctorate in chiropractor work, taking that over to the way that you think about pickleball and everything that you've studied and learned and watched and seen, if you could go back and tell yourself like, hey, focus on these things to get to the level that you're at today the fastest, what would those things be?
I would tell myself to train more intentionally. I
Mm,
think early on in my pickleball days, I would train every day, but never really with any real intention. And I think the problem that you run into is, as you mentioned, you start to fatigue your body and things start to break down when you put in those longer hours. And maybe you're not doing things correctly and you actually
yeah,
form bad habits. You're tiring out your body, so you're not as fresh when you go back to the court the next day, etc. So I think shortening drill sessions, making them very specific, bring out a tee, work on the same shot 500 times and get exponentially better at that before you tackle something else. That would kind of be the advice I would go with. And I think a lot of information is out there on social media. So practicing things the right way is also very important and learning from guys that are already doing it at the highest level. There's a lot of content out there. So not just guessing on how to do things, like actually look at what's working and how the game's changing and drill those specific things intentionally for a shorter amount of time instead of just drilling dinks, just general dinks for like 2 hours.
yeah. How do you figure out, how does somebody like myself figure out like what things I should be focusing on in a drilling session?
Great question. This is a bit of a gut check to a lot of people, but ask the people that you play with most consistently what you are weakest at. Like
Mm,
what do they target on you when they play you? And if they're like, oh, every time we drive to your forehand, you're set backhand and you have no punch. Or, oh, all we have to do is think to your backhand and we know you'll play defensive. Little things like that. I think people are there to win. And I think when they're there to win, they're there to kind of pick up on things that are working more or less. So I always have a little bit of a conversation with whoever I drill with or play with afterwards, and we all kind of share like, hey, you were doing this really well today. And then maybe this, we were finding some success here. So this would be something that, if you drilled this, we wouldn't have had those opportunities to get those points.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. And just kind of sharing some scouting reports with each other. And then I think just to your point, there's so many drills out there. Um, are there a few drills that you feel like, and this can be general, like I know you have some specifics that you like to focus on and T work and things like that, but are there a few, maybe one or two drills that you feel like if I could only do these drills, these would be the ones that I would focus on to improve the foundation of my game?
Great question. If I had to pick two or three drills to kind of stick with, I'd probably pick more of a kitchen type drill, more of a mid-court type drill, and more of a baseline type drill. So in terms of the baseline type drill, I see people very often just go back and practice drops or they'll practice drives with no real intention on spots that they're hitting on the court. And even if they get a passive ball, they're practicing drops that day. So they just hit a third shot drop. So what I like to do is a little bit more pattern work from the baseline. And right now, a big pattern for me is working on a third shot drive, fifth shot drop.
Yeah.
So I will specifically serve a ball, have my partner return to me. And as long as the ball's reasonable, I'm going to get in and hit a pretty strong third shot drive. And then I'm immediately looking for a third shot drop to a specific location on the court.
Yeah. Thinking in combos with the drive and drop. I feel like everybody's so black and white or binary in the way that they think about driving and dropping. And I feel like there's more of a spectrum involved or understanding that like even a hybrid drive, the combination there, that they're all really similar shots with different amount of pace and spin on them. And I think people will overcommit to like, I hit third shot drives or I hit third shot drops, and they'll see an opportunity where you've got a guy coming up who's, moving out of control, and they'll drop it over there and not taking advantage because they've been told so many times that like the correct way to play pickleball is to drop the ball, right? Or then guys, right, that'll just drive everything. You've got two people standing balanced at the kitchen line waiting to counter, and they're just driving it into them, and driving their partner crazy. So just that thought process on, hey, how do I work in the combination here? How do I drive not to win, but to set up an easier drop? Um, is good, and I feel like it's really hard to change from power to touch, and do it efficiently and do it in a way that's going to get you to the kitchen line and win some points. So love that. I know 7-Eleven is one of my favorite drills to just work on that kind of baseline transition, kitchen work, and like to focus on that as well. But I'm definitely guilty of being somebody who can just go and drill for 2 hours. Drilled for 3 hours today, and towards the end of it, you start to realize like I'm just sloppy and swinging at everything and out of control. So it's a good reminder to make sure that we're dialed in and focused. And sometimes less is more when it comes to just kind of what you're focused on. If your list is 20 things long, you're probably not going to be as efficient in your drilling session. So love that call out. Last thing I want to just kind of leave everybody with, and again, thank you so much for hopping on the pod. Different kind of content from what we usually do, a lot of trash talk, league talk, and performance reviews and talking about upcoming matches and stuff like that. But this will be a good kind of pivot from that to prime your trip coming out here and the clinics you're working on. Where can people who are listening to this, where can they find you and your content? And then what are some things, is there anything that you working on that people can keep their eye out for?
Absolutely, yes. So as I mentioned I'm on Instagram primarily. I also post on TikTok and then YouTube as well. All three of those you can find me at the Pickleball Chiropractor. And do have some pretty cool things coming up here in terms of new content. I recently signed my first brand deal with Holbrook Pickleball. So having that deal is enabling me to do this from more of a full-time perspective rather than a part-time perspective. And I'm also working with Slice Pickleball, who I'm sure you guys in
Dave,
Arizona
yeah.
know that crew pretty well. So working with those two on some brand deals, just to get more content out as more of a full-time gig for myself. And one of the cool things I'm doing now is I'm working with a decent professional group here down in Southern California. They're pursuing signing PPA contracts. So they're in the range of like 5-5 type players to 6-0 type players
Yeah.
at a max. So to be PPA signed, you need to be at that 6-0 level. So a lot of them it's a little bit of a push, and a lot of them we're at that 5-5 level and there's some room to go. So I'm going to be starting to vlog some of our trainings there and uploading them to YouTube because that will be more long form content. Um, but as a chiropractor, a lot of what I train, like I said, is very specific to the person. So a lot of what we start with in trainings and what I want to show in these vlogs is some pickleball specific strength and conditioning type stuff and activation work that we do to really get the body primed to exercise and to hit 100 two-hand backhands in a row that day and rep
Yeah.
out skills. And then you'll see my trainings are extremely intentional. So as my student or my client, you're not going to leave until we've got our goal of the day accomplished. We don't take on too much at once, and I think that will be cool for people to see because I've never really posted that type of content before, and it's going to be more authentic, more me talking to you like this instead of just a voiceover or music in the background. So that will be new, something I've never done before, and working with a really talented group of players here in SoCal. There's a very rich bed of professional players here in SoCal, similar to Arizona, I know as well. So top tier players making the push for pro, and I'm happy to be part of their journey, and they're kind enough to let me showcase that in content. So big thing
That's
on
cool.
YouTube.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'll make sure to put all the links to your socials in the description of the podcast here. Make sure that people go and check you out. Like I said in the beginning of the call, your content is unique, it's different, and it's been really helpful just to simplify some concepts. So on top of the clinic work that we're gonna get to do next month, hoping that a lot of people jump in and take a look at your socials and your YouTube. Excited to kind of see some of that more training side. I know I could use some strength and conditioning side and can neglect that from time to time. So thanks again, man. Really appreciate Michael. You're doing great work and excited to continue to see you blow up and see what you do. But I really appreciate you hopping on the pod and looking forward to hanging out here next month.
Been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much, sincerely, and thank you to the community as well for tuning in and listening.